All right, well, good evening, everybody. Continue to put a greeting in the chat. Let us know where you're coming from if you haven't done so already. And thank you for being here this evening. For those of you who don't know me, I am Kate Smith. I am the Organizations and Communities Manager for the National Genealogical Society. I do recognize quite a few of you that are on here, but I know I don't know everyone. So welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for joining us this evening. Tonight is an exciting night. It is the very first Org Connects event. So we are thrilled that you're here. NGS, for those of you who may not be familiar, has a delegate council that's made up of people who are the official representative to NGS from their organization. And the delegate council has been meeting quarterly since 2021. And they have fantastic meetings all about communication, collaboration, and counsel. But we have realized there are some things we'd like to talk about and get feedback on and engage our organization members on. That it might be good to
one cookie is 17.
Just the delegates. And just a reminder for anybody coming in, if you could make sure you're on mute, that would be appreciated.
6 per table.
So just to get back to our introduction, Org Connects is a brand new type of event. It is open to people from our organization members beyond the delegates. So if you're not a delegate for an organization, we're happy that you're here. And we look forward to interacting with you this evening and getting to talk about artificial intelligence. The Org Connects events will be happening periodically. We'll still have the delegate council meetings every quarter. But we hope you will look forward to the Org Connects event as those come up. Tonight, we are talking about AI, which is obviously a hot topic and something we know many of you are interested in. We're going to start in just a moment with a 20-minute presentation to give you an overview and some pretty cool information that Steve has and some fun things. And then after that, we'll spend a little time with some poll questions and have some open conversation and Q&A regarding AI and what your organization might need. We do want to keep the questions focused on that during our conversation. There's a lot of different things that we could get into when it comes to artificial intelligence. So tonight's not really going to be about giving you a lot of training or specifics regarding AI. We want to keep it more toward trying to help figure out what your organization needs and how NGS can support you and any questions that you might have about that. So again, we'll do the presentation, we'll do poll questions. Feel free to make some notes on any comments or questions you have, and we'll get to those for the last 15 minutes or so, and then wrap up. So for those of you who maybe haven't done a lot of this, we do have a raise hand function in Zoom. So when we get to that part, you can use that, or you can put questions in the chat, and we can call on you and go through those in the meeting. So first off, we do want to do one poll question just to get a sense of who is here. Oh, and I just had my screen disappear. Karen, are you maybe able to launch the poll question? Oh, there it is. It's back. Okay, sorry about that. I'll do it. All right, so we'll do poll question number 1, just to gauge what kind of experience do any of you have. Have you done 20 hours or more using different AI tools? All right, so we have 31% said yes, 68% said no. All right, so there we go. That'll be good information for Steve. And so on that note, I am going to welcome Steve Little, who is really who you're here to see and not me. And I'm guessing you know that Steve is the NGS AI Program Director. So he can introduce himself, and we're going to give him the next 20 minutes to go through some really cool information that we hope you all will enjoy. So Steve, take it away.
You. If I could ask you for the spotlight back, um, uh, we will go ahead and get started. Those poll results are fascinating, actually. This is probably one of the highest literacy rates that I've encountered yet. Normally, when I give this poll, the answers are, the responses are usually about 5%. So you're about 6 times more highly educated than the groups I normally run into. Again, my name is Steve Little. I'm the AI program director, and I have the best job in the world. And it's been the most incredible 2 years. And I'm excited to be with y'all tonight. It feels like strapping in for a roller coaster ride. I'm afraid I'm developing a bit of a reputation. I do several of these talks a month, and more often than not, they're scheduled for about 45 minutes. And quite frequently it ends up going about 3 hours. And I retain about 95% of my folks, but I am not going to do that to y'all tonight. Mostly because, as Kate said, I won't be teaching tonight. Tonight is going, I did anticipate that more of you would have some exposure to AI than I normally encounter. But 2 out of 3 of you, if you've used these tools for less than 20 hours, you really don't yet have a taste for what they can do. And of those 2/3 of you who have used them for less than 20 hours, probably quite a few of you are actually going to see these things demonstrated for the first time tonight. So that's actually my primary purpose, is to introduce many of you to what these tools look like for the first time, not to cause any despair among any of my students who happen to be here tonight, and I see half a dozen or more. Glad to see Amy and Robin and Dawn and just a whole mess of others. Thank you all for being here. You will see some new stuff too. I've been saving some new stuff just for this group. This meeting began, the idea for this meeting began at RootsTech in Salt Lake City in February. At that time, I had taught my first 2 large classes, cohorts of students, and had several good talks. And at RootsTech, I got to meet many of you. And you would come up to me and ask how I or NGS could help your local societies. And so that really inspired Kate and I. Kate gave herself a bit short shift. This is actually tonight going to be 2/3 Kate and 1/3 Steve. I get to do 20 minutes of a dog and pony show, but the second half of this, talking to you and finding out more about how NGS can support you as a local genealogical society or a library or archives or a family lineage group. How we can support you is what we would like to learn tonight. We got a lot of feedback and questions in February, but now we'd like to actually put this to work. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce the folks who are a little bit new to this, a little bit of a dog and pony show, and show you what the big deal is about. You probably, if you're here tonight, and I think we have about 100 people here, almost 200 signed up, and that's having a 50% turnout rate is really good. Getting 100 of you here on a Thursday night is really good. You could be out by the pool somewhere having watermelon. It's about 90 degrees here in Virginia. But what we wanted to do was show you what these tools can do. And for the folks who are just seeing these for the first time, you've probably heard the buzz. There's been a lot of buzz about artificial intelligence over the past almost 2 years now. We're going to mark a significant anniversary in November, uh, the 2-year anniversary of what really changed and became different. I'm not going to cover too much of that history or theory or things like that. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen, and we will get started. Well, first I need to, all right, and that's actually probably sharing the wrong screen. Now, Kate, can you give me a thumbs up if you see the Orgs Connect slide?
Yep, we're
Awesome.
good.
Awesome. Good. Okay, here we go. There's just 12 slides. This is not going to take too long. The first thing I'd like to show you, some folks have seen this. These first, I'm going to show you 3 static demonstrations. And these may be familiar to you. I actually demonstrated these last September, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time showing these. In just a few minutes, we're going to do some live demonstrations of some things that no one's ever seen before. I've been saving some special stuff just for y'all since February. And so for the folks of you who are new, these tools, these artificial intelligence tools are not really new. Artificial intelligence in a general way has been around for 50 or 60 years. I'm 57, and some aspects of artificial intelligence are older than I am. But something very significant happened about 2 years ago. A new kind of artificial intelligence was made widely available to folks. And it's a kind of artificial intelligence. That term is a broad umbrella term. But the thing that changed 2 years ago in November of 2022 was easy public access to a type of artificial intelligence called a large language model. Also, sometimes a similar synonymous term, an adjacent term, probably more familiar, is a chatbot. You've probably heard the word chatbot a lot over the past 2 years. Well, a chatbot is just kind of how you talk to these things. Chatbot is a very good descriptive term. The magic behind the chatbot is something called a large language model. And the key word there, similar to chat, is language. And these tools are very, very good at language. And so the only theory or background I want to stress is that these tools help us work with language the way a spreadsheet might help us work with numbers. And spreadsheets changed the world when they were introduced with Lotus 1-2-3 in the 70s or 80s. And so if you think of the basics of what a spreadsheet can do, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, well, now we have a tool that can do for words, sentences, paragraphs, pages, chapters of books, and whole books. They can slice and dice that kind of language the way that a spreadsheet does with addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And that's, it takes at least 20 hours of working or actually playing. You don't have to sit down like you're practicing the piano for 20 hours to start to get the hang of this. You can just play with these tools for 20 hours. And after about 20 hours, the light bulb goes off. But if you think about these tools as being very good with language, letting you slice and dice language, that's kind of the context. And so what you see on your screen here is some language. This is actually the last page of Thomas Jefferson's will. And in the fall, last fall, almost a year ago, my first class of students, they got very familiar with Thomas Jefferson's will because we used it a lot. Because back then, it was only, this will is 3 pages long. A year ago, that's about all we could do. We could slice and dice about 3 pages of text. I would have preferred to use George Washington's will, but at 6 pages, it was too long. One of the amazing things about this technology is how rapidly it is advancing. Now we can work with much more than 3 or 6 pages. It's easily 20 or 30 pages. And depending on what you want to do with the language, sometimes it can be even more than that. Um, and so this is Thomas Jefferson's will. You often probably work with wills and probate files and things like this. You can show these tools a will. And now I'm not demonstrating handwriting recognition. That's still a little bit away. Uh, these tools you've probably heard they can do some handwriting recognition, but that's not what I'm demonstrating here. Imagine you had a typed version of this will, which I did. And what I asked this machine to do was to read Thomas Jefferson's will and to create a table to put in the first column of the table anybody who was mentioned in the will. And the second column, it was going to put their relationship to Thomas Jefferson. And in the third column, it put what Thomas Jefferson was leaving to them into the will. Now, shortly after I gave this first demonstration, I had the idea that it would be good to have a fourth column here. You may have heard that these machines make mistakes. They're not perfect. There are several ways that these machines are quite different than anything you've ever used before. And the way that they can make mistakes is one of them. So if I was going to add a fourth column, I would ask it to include the original sentence from the will showing me that Francis Epps was mentioned in the will and was going to receive land at Poplar Forest. That makes the error checking, the fact checking, the verification, and the validation much easier. But you can see it took me about 2 minutes to get that information into a table. And from there, I could put it into a spreadsheet or a database. I could import it into RootsMagic or your Ancestry family tree. It makes moving language and information very easy. This I did show it this actual image. This is my grandfather's draft card. And I asked it, and we'll talk if I was teaching, I would tell you how I asked it to do these things. But I asked it to look at this and to extract the information from this draft card. And it actually has vision. It has the capability to look at an image, and it looked at this image of a draft card and extracted all of this information. Now you have to be very careful and fact check these things. The accuracy of handwriting is in proportion to its legibility. And so my grandfather had a very blockish handwriting, and so it did very good. If you were to go through that with a fine-tooth comb, you may notice a couple little things. The employer's name is actually wrong. He had written farming here, but it's wrong there. So you have to build in time to do the error correction. You are the human in the loop. You are responsible. You have to do the verification and the validation. It can also look at images of headstones, actually any kind of image. But here, again, I just said, look at this image, extract all the data from here, it read the tombstone, but then I asked it to describe the whole thing. And this is what I wanted to call your attention to, how it described this image. This is a machine. This is a computer. A computer looked at this and generated this. You've never seen a computer do this before. It looked at this picture and it said, this is what I see. The image captures a headstone located in a serene green environment. It seems to be a secluded spot surrounded by tall trees, giving an atmosphere of tranquility. Now, your spreadsheet is pretty good at adding 2 plus 2 and getting 4, but if you show it a picture of a cemetery, it's not going to describe it as serene and secluded and tranquil. These tools are quite powerful and new to most folks. Um, these tools have severe limits. There's things they can do and there's things they cannot do. And we actually spend a lot of our time talking about the things that they're good at and they're not good at. And what's amazing is there's things that I told my students last October and November that we shouldn't use these machines for. I said, and we knew this would change. We knew it would get better, but we would always say, today we can't do these things. Well, now, 10 months later, there's many of these things that these tools can do. For example, we used to caution people, do not use them for research. And that's still mostly true, but they're getting a little bit better. We used to say they were no good at math. Well, just this week, one of these tools won a second place medallion at an international mathematics Olympiad. 10 months ago, it couldn't add digits. And now it's winning math Olympiads or taking second place. So the things that these tools can do and can't do are improving rapidly. So that's part of the challenge, is kind of keeping up with what is an appropriate use and what's an inappropriate use. These are the good uses. When I compared these tools to a spreadsheet, that was quite intentional. A spreadsheet is good at addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And once you understand addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, you can do a lot of other stuff. Well, this is the addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division of a language model. Remember, these things are very good with language, so they can summarize. And that's what I'm going to show you in a live demonstration in just a minute. Taking a lot of text and making a little bit of text. I'm going to show you extraction, how you can pull data out of a text. Generation, how you can take a little bit of words, maybe a list of names, dates, places, events, and relationships. And as genealogists, you have a lot of lists of names, dates, places, events, and relationships. And it can turn that raw list into a story, into a report, into anything you want. It's also good at translation. And I don't just mean translating from one language to another. It will translate Shakespearean English into modern English. It will translate legalese into easier to understand English, with serious caveats. It's not an attorney and I'm not an attorney, so don't rely on it for legal advice. But if you want a general idea of what a deed said from the 1700s, this is going to carry you about 95% of the way there. Now, and you will have access to all these slides. We will actually distribute all of this presentation to you. You're welcome to take screenshots if you want, but we'll get all of this to you in just a moment. These are other things that these folks use these for now. First, the first 20 hours, use them playfully. Then you start to use them for administrative work, back office work. You can use them educationally up until about the 10th grade level, or maybe a sophomore in college, if there's information that's on Wikipedia. It's pretty good at being a tutor for things like that. It will teach you how to use the computer. If you want to get better at Excel, it will be the best Excel tutor you've ever had. And then genealogically, and that's what we're going to look at in just a moment. It's also good if you're a writer or an editor, because these large language models are very good at language. There's many aspects of language that they're quite good at. These are some general principles. Look at how bad it was at spelling. This is how bad it was at spelling, at putting text in images. It's actually gotten much better than that, but we want to 6 minutes over silver bullets. That means look for small things that it can do. Try to find little tasks, that repetitive tasks, the busy work that you don't like to do, outsource that. Progress over perfection. These tools do not have to be perfect to be useful. In fact, we quite understand that part of our job is to be the human in the loop, and that we're going to have to go back and follow up and check these things. Chat with your chatbot means that, unlike a calculator, when you punch in a calculator, the cube root of 27, and you just hit the equals key and boom, it gives you the answer. These tools don't work this way. You have to sometimes go around and around and around a little bit. You have to work with them. You have to chat with them. And so that's why we say chat with your chatbot. Mind your expectations. Most folks want to go for the moon. And if you do that, that's okay. Everybody has to learn the hard way. You're not going to break anything, try anything you want, but you'll learn that the lower your expectations are, when you find the things that these tools are really good at, that's when you start saving time and becoming more efficient. Where these things are going, what we can do with them is going to grow. New things are become available. The things that we can't do today, we're going to be able to do tomorrow. It's going to get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. It is crazy just in the past year how much cheaper it is to do things now. They're giving it away. When at the beginning of the year, it used to cost $20 a month to do some of this stuff. Anything I'm showing you today, you can do for free. So it doesn't even cost $20 a month anymore. Now, I do pay the $20 a month, and if you're serious, you may want to too. You can't do a lot for free. They actually give you a taste, but you can do some things. Now, let's see. How do we talk to these machines? This is a little bit, I've got a gift for you. In just a moment, we're going to give you something to show you how you can talk to these things. And the final word of advice I usually leave for beginners is to don't use these things for research. Folks are starting to do this a little bit, but I would encourage you not to. And so at this time, if someone would like to drop into the chat the link to the handout that I'm giving you, I'm going to show you, and I know we've got 1 minute. I'm going to ask for 5 minutes just to show you some whistles and bells, some pretty cool stuff, but we'll go quick. This is a newspaper article to show you how good these things are with language, and quickly demonstrate how we can use these things. John Witherspoon is an ancestor of mine, indirect. He was an uncle, but he was also a signer of the Declaration of Independence. And about 100 years after he died in 1906 or so, they were dedicating a statue to him. And so in the Library of Congress, I found a long article about him that actually looks like, I can show you this. The text of that article, when you look at it at newspapers.com or somewhere else, it looks like this. But you can easily get that text, and then you are able to, let me come back here. This is Claude. And the handout I gave you contains a link to this tool, Steve Summarizer. I'm going to dump that whole long article into Steve Summarizer. This chatbot is called Claude. The one you probably heard about most over the past 2 years was one called ChatGPT. I could show you this in ChatGPT too, but Claude's actually a little bit smarter. So if I use Claude, I'm going to paste all of that newspaper into here. And you can see it popped up there. And it's already, I've told it what I want it to do. That's in the handout. You do not need to retype anything in that handout. But if I hit this button, it's now going to summarize that long article. And this is just getting started. So you can see it's going through and it summarized this article. John Weatherspoon, a prominent figure, yada, yada, yada. So it has summarized that article. That's pretty neat, but what if this wasn't enough? Perhaps I wanted to say, I'll show you another little whistle and bill. Expand that summary to about 500 words. And then it will go through and it will expand that summary, make it longer. And sure enough, it does. And like we did with Jefferson's will, if I wanted to double check that what it was doing was appropriate, I could do something like this next step. Create a table with 2 columns. In the first column, list every name that is mentioned. And in the second column, list their relationship to John Weatherspoon. And even though it didn't spell it correctly here, that's not going to matter. And sure enough, it's done that. And it's a trivial task to now get this into Excel or a Word document or a family tree. But if I wanted to modify this, I could do something like this. Recreate the table with a third column. In the third column, add the sentence from the original article that was the basis for your determination of the relationship. And this still blows my mind. I've been doing this for 2 years now, and this is still amazing. I've got 1 more minute left, so I'll show you one more cool trick, maybe 2. It's being very thorough. There we go. It finished. One of the demonstrations I was going to show you is how it could create. Actually, I can quickly do this, and I've actually got, I can show you how I did this when I practiced this afternoon. One of the things I did was I had it create a family tree. I just asked it to create a family tree, and it created the family tree. The other thing I asked it to do, I have a niece and a nephew, and I said, John Weatherspoon's a distant relative of mine. That means he's also my niece and nephew's distant relative. Write a letter as if it was from me, Uncle Steve, to my niece and nephew, introducing them to John Weatherspoon. And sure enough, that's exactly what it did. You can see here that Jake and Warren, I told it that's my niece and nephew. And Jake is going to Princeton. John Weatherspoon, signer of the Declaration of Independence, was also one of the presidents of Princeton. And so it did that. And so that's my 5 minutes, extra 5 minutes. I hope we have enough time for everything. I hope if this didn't impress you, you need to let me know. We need to check you for a pulse. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn things back over to Kate.
Thank you, Steve. Well, hopefully everybody found that pretty interesting. Some of you I know are quite experienced and none of that is new to you, but I'm sure we also have a few people on here who have not seen a whole lot, and hopefully that gets you interested in learning more. And so now we're going to start talking about what this means for your organization and what this means for NGS as we try to support our organization members. So we are going to ask a series of poll questions, and then we'll have some open Q&A and discussion time. So let's get into that. And let me real quickly, I'll put the link in the chat again to the file from Steve just to make sure everybody gets that. So when you can, go out to that bit.ly link and you can download a PDF from Steve. All right, well, let's get started with some poll questions. So first of all, we just want to get a sense of who is here. So we're just curious about what kind of organization you represent. We'll give everybody a second to do that. Okay, so it's looking like by far you all are mostly societies and family associations by 95%. And then we've got a couple people from libraries and archives and a couple people from other organizations. So thank you all for that. And then we also want to know, as we get into thinking about what this might look like, we'd like to know kind of where's your organization at with AI? Do you have things happening? Do you have a SIG group or something like that? And we'll wrap this one up here in just a second. Okay, so we'll end that poll. It looks like 58% are interested in starting a group. Only a few already have one, and about 38% are not looking to do anything with that right now. Okay. And then if we were to look at some training opportunities, how interested would you all be in something that would train leaders or staff, kind of a train the trainer, so that you have people who are able to train other people in your organization? All right, so we're at 88% are interested so far. So thank you very much for letting us know that. That's important as we think about what to provide. And just a couple more here. I'm not sure why we're gonna skip one there. Let's try to start this over. Well, we'll see if we can get to those. Karen, are you able to get in? Let me see if I can edit this maybe.
Okay, hold on. We need 5.
We need 5 and 6. I'm not sure why it's not letting me launch those polls. Let
Can
me
you
see if I
click
can.
the back button? Do you see 5? I got 5 at the top. I think I can start it.
Yeah, see if you can launch 5.
Okay, there it is. Nope, it's stuck.
All right, well, maybe we'll ask that in our conversation then. We'll just do it that way. So we do have a couple other questions for you, and I'll mention, I'm sure Steve is watching the comments in the chat. So Steve, before we ask those last couple questions and get into some of the open Q&A, is there anything in the chat you want to jump in on, or do you want me to move into those last couple questions?
We can move into the questions.
Okay. All right, well, since for some reason the last couple poll questions are not launching, we will try to give you an opportunity to talk about that here. So the one that we were going to ask what level of education do you need? If you all could maybe put in the chat, do you think if we were to provide some training, kind of a train the trainer type model, are you gonna, are your trainers at a point where they still need basic AI education? Are they at maybe more of an intermediate or advanced level? Or do you think they would be looking, whether it's you or someone else, looking at kind of an ongoing thing from basics, progressing into something else? Okay, so it's looking like so far the comments in the chat are basic level. We've got one medium to advanced. Yeah, okay. Couple people more medium. Well, you all can continue to answer that in the chat. I'll throw the next question out. We also wanted to know what kind of frequency, what kind of timing might be of interest, evenings, maybe weekly or monthly for a period of time, weekend workshops, maybe once a month, quarterly workshops, or maybe just something like this, twice a year update with Q&A or something along those lines.
Are you asking about the training that we're looking for or the courses we want to give to our members?
For the training that we would do for like a leader, kind of the train the trainer type stuff. Okay, you see a lot of monthly, some quarterly, some evenings. Okay,
May I ask a question?
sure, go ahead.
Okay, Steve,
Yes.
what do you think? I think we have two ways to go with this. I mean, some of it is just information to extend to the people in our group. They'd love to have that information. But what about the possibility of training the trainers to make things easier to work within the organization?
Administrative work to do society paperwork?
Well, I
Is
don't
that
think
what you're
that's-
asking?
Well, possibly, but I mean, teaching people how to use AI to write a good promo, or
Yes.
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 Along that line, something beneficial to the society as a whole. I mean, individual
Yes.
stuff is great, but
Yes.
let's harness it also for society.
Do you remember my favorite phrase associated with this question? These skills are eminently transferable. So yes, it makes a lot of sense. If we were to do something monthly, maybe every third or fourth month, it may not need to be focused specifically on genealogy, but basic tasks that apply not just to genealogy, but anytime you're working with language, and how to write a blog post, how to do promotional literature, how to turn a blog post into a series of tweets. These tools are really good at that stuff, so that your society can use it to promote itself. Those are fantastic uses, and that would be perfectly appropriate for this.
I think that would be the perfect. I mean, I love AI. I am all over it, but I think we really need to do a bit of focus on societies to make everybody's jobs a little bit easier.
I would be very receptive if you think that's supposed to be every second month or every third month or every fourth month or twice a year. That's probably the folks who want to participate. I would listen to, what you need.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting. And maybe, and just to push my point, because I'm already putting my foot in the hot water. What about having some videos that we host online for some of our leaders, so we can say, hey, are you interested in knowing how to create a wonderful blog post? you can use the AI and they can go and click that, or a YouTube channel or something that I know AI changes, but I mean, the basic command I don't think is ever going to change, right, Steve? I mean, if you want help me write a blog post, it's going to be help me write a blog post. So, I mean, I think if we had some resources for societies that way, that would be really cool for the administration aspect.
Agreed. That wouldn't be my decision alone. There's some administrative stuff and finance stuff and decisions above my pay grade. But I give my stuff away for I make as much stuff freely available as possible. So as long as the folks above my pay grade, if they would have to think hard about that, make sure there were no unintended consequences. But I would definitely be okay with that.
Or a Facebook group just for society
Yeah,
admins.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know.
That kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
if I can chime in on that, I think one thing to think about too is, we want to make sure what we're providing to you all is what you need, but we also don't want to reinvent the wheel per se, and spend time and use Steve's time on things that are already out there. So some of the more general uses of AI, like, how to do a blog post, we may not need Steve to create a training on that. That probably is already out there somewhere. But Steve could probably find a way to make it more specific to our organization members. I think that's the angle we would want to figure out is there something about that would be unique to our organization members? Is there some aspect of that maybe you're not getting somewhere else? So any of those kinds of things, if there's something like that, that you can point us in some of those directions, that would be really helpful too, as we plan out what this might look like. And we do want to give
Amy,
you
thank
all
you.
time, Amy, that was great to kick that off. We do want to give you all a little time here just for some general Q&A. I don't know if there's anything we need to catch. There's some conversation in the chat. I'm not sure I've seen questions in the chat yet. But if anybody else has questions that you want to put in the chat or raise your hand. Kim, you've got your hand up. We'll do Kim and then Jim Davis.
Hey, thanks, Kate. Hey, as we were talking about trying to get feedback from organizations on how we might best be able to put this to use, now that most of us, because I'm a delegate, has now seen this, I'd like to be able to go back to my board and try to get some input from them as far as what they would like as far as needs go. Is it possible for you guys to send out a basic form input type poll to us separately to the delegates so that we could input that stuff and send it to you?
We can, but also, this video we are recording. So as long as there's no technology issues, this will go up on YouTube. So this will be available for you to share with anybody if you need to. And you all have the link to Steve's handout. And so I think really it would probably just be, an email if, and we can, send some reminders later. But if anything comes up, I think after this, you're welcome to just send us an email. And
okay,
if
so
there's
as long as we know
questions
where
or
to direct
ideas.
it to the right person. Yeah, that was my biggest concern, is how do I direct that information once we share this? Okay.
Yeah, and you can get that to me or to Steve, and we'll get our email addresses in the chat just in case anybody needs them.
Thank you.
Yeah. Jim?
My question is not fully formed, and I apologize for that. But what I'm hearing is a great enthusiasm for AI, for the use of summarizing textual documents and finding data and things like that. But what we really need AI to do is to put together threads of factual information that can improve genealogical research. And frankly, I don't think the tools are up to it right now. It's one thing to use it for a blog post, but it's another thing for AI to figure out which George Davis is my great-grandfather from 1852 in New York. And I'm much more interested in how to use AI for genealogical research than I am in how to put together promotional material. There's one person, Janet Warner, said that they're considering combining it with a DNA SIG. I'd love to figure out who my great grandmother is, since she clearly was not the biological child of the people that she ostensibly was born from. Where's that in this rush to use AI?
Jim, you need to find Blaine Bettinger's Facebook group called Genealogy and Artificial Intelligence. There's 7,000 people who are working on those questions every day.
What is
And you're right,
NGS doing about it?
Well, everybody is participating at once, but those are the expectations. Those are the desires. But you're exactly right. We're not there yet. It's going to be a incremental and sometimes great leaps ahead. But doing what we can do, but to the big question, that's very different than what we're talking about tonight. Tonight is about how NGS can support the organizations and societies. But we're also doing that too. And that's really exciting work too, because there's new discoveries, a half dozen new discoveries every week.
Robin, you've got your hand up.
Yes, I'm sure this question is premature, but do you have an approximate time frame from when you think you might be launching this Train the Trainers model?
Okay.
We don't. I mean, we are literally gathering information from you tonight for Steve to take back. There's discussions that'll happen with the NGS education team and leadership. We don't have an exact time frame. I mean, Steve, you probably, I'm sure, have some rough idea of when you might like to do something, but we haven't necessarily set a firm time frame on any of that.
Sooner rather than later. But with the decisions from on high, but as soon as they tell us to get started, I'm ready to go.
I do want to get to
how to export.
Steve. I don't know if you saw the question from Bill George in the chat. I wanted to make sure you had a chance to look at that and answer that real quickly.
Select file from.
And I'm muted, but what it's for.
I'm not sure I understand Bill's question. If Bill might be able to
Yeah, I'm here.
Bill, tell me, clarify what you're asking.
Well, what I'm starting an AI SIG in my local genealogy society, and basically I'm after like lesson plans, because we're introducing the topic such as we did DNA 10 years ago. We're introducing the topic, and you have all kinds of thoughts that occur. Thoughts,
Yeah.
as a gentleman that preceded me talking about solving a genealogy question, to how do I keep up with the latest that's happening? How do I group the content of different sides of AI?
That's exactly what you should expect from a Train the Trainers program. Is, this is, if we did monthly, something like that, we could map out the next year. And first things first, there's a mix of theory that is very essential to understand, and then you start with the basics: the addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. In large language models, that's summarization, extraction, generation, and translation. There are a glide path. First things first. But that's a great question, and that's exactly what you should want for Train the Trainers. I'm not going to be able to get you a PhD in artificial intelligence, but I can keep you 20 minutes ahead of your students in your local society.
And we are getting close on time here, so let me go to Dawn, since she's got her hand up. I don't think we've had other questions in the chat, but if I've missed something, let me know, and then after Dawn's, we'll wrap up.
Hi, Kate. Thank you. Hi, Steve.
Hello, great to see you, my hero.
I want to encourage everyone here to attend as many AI webinars and things, take Steve's NGS course, do any of that stuff, because it takes more than one thing for you to learn it and pick it up. I've done a number of them, and I did his GRIP Institute last month. But I also wanted to add on to Kim Thurman's suggestion. I really think that we need to be able to go back to our societies and ask the board what it is they would like us, to be able to use it for. What things would be a good use of it for the societies to help us out as a society. And compile those to create that train the trainer. And there might be different ones. There might be some that are for, this one's on this topic. This one's on, another one, that kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I did just put a link in the chat to the NGS AI courses that Steve is doing. So in terms of, just broad education, a couple of you have mentioned taking his course at GRIP, but he also has a couple other courses that he's done, a level 1 and level 2, that might be helpful for those of you who are wanting to learn and are just getting started. So, and yes, the GRIP announcement is tomorrow at noon on the GRIP Facebook page for the 2025 courses for any of you who are interested. We only have a couple minutes, and we do have a couple announcements to wrap up. Marcia, do you have a real quick question?
Yes, I do. Just a comment for Steve mostly. Obviously, all the things we've talked about are important, and certainly train the trainer is important. But staying out ahead of this technology and knowing what Steve mentioned earlier about, well, what are the 6 important developments this week? So I subscribe to a lot of different places that scan all that AI environment for me, but it's generally not as specific as genealogy or how to help your society. So if somebody could scan that kind of environment for AI techniques and pass that along in a summary form on a, monthly basis or something in a little blog post or something, that would be helpful to me, because then I can go and pursue the particular angle that I might have of interest or that my society may be of interest.
Is that Marcia?
Yes.
Marcia, rumor has it that these two guys have a podcast, a weekly podcast called the Family History AI Show, where every week they talk about those 6 discoveries. Some crazy guys, I don't even know what their names are. I'm teasing. It's I'm
You're
one of
them.
Yeah.
I'll tune in.
Yeah.
Thanks, because I think people would be interested in that if they knew about it, Steve. We need to hype that more for you.
Well, we are at our hour, so I do want to wrap up. I very much appreciate Steve being here tonight and all of you participating in our first Org Connects event. We are recording this meeting and plan to have it up on the NGS YouTube channel at a later date, barring any technical issues. So we do have a few announcements, a couple things we want to make sure you all know about. But again, thank you so much to Steve for doing this, and for you all for all of your ideas and questions. We are going to make sure we capture what's in the chat, because that is really, really important conversation for us and for Steve to be able to come back to and follow up on with you all. Just a couple things real quickly. If you haven't seen it, there is an NGS culture conversation on August 7th with Mark Russ Fetterman, who happens to be a cousin of NGS Executive Director Matt Menashes. And they are going to have a really fun conversation where you can get a taste of the Jewish food experience and immigrant stories in New York City and family history, and maybe even a lesson on locks. We also have the NGS annual meeting and election coming up on the 21st of August. And especially if you're a delegate, we would love to have you come to that because you are the person who can vote on behalf of your organization. If you're not getting emails about that, please let me know. But any of you are welcome to attend that. It's open to all individual and organization members of NGS. We also have a delegate council meeting coming up on the 29th of August. There'll be more going out to delegates about that. And if you're from an organization member, but you are not real familiar with delegates and the administrator role, there's a link in the chat to learn more about that. And finally, we want to let you all be the first to know we have the second Org Connects event planned. So save the date. That is going to be on October 3rd, which is also a Thursday evening. It will be with Bob Taylor of the Family History Guide Association, and he will be talking about the partnership that the Family History Guide launched with NGS earlier this year, and how that benefits your organization as a resource. And we'll also be using that to help kick off Family History Month in October. So we look forward to hopefully seeing many of you at that event. The question in the chat about we don't send emails to everyone. We primarily send emails to the delegates because they are the primary representative and communication person between your organization and NGS, and we don't have everybody from all of our organization members. We don't have all of your names and email addresses in our database to email you. So there's some things you'll hear about if you're an individual member. There's some things you'll hear about if you're a delegate. We also include some of the organization administrators on emails. So it is, you know, it depends on if we have your contact information and if you have a role, an official role with NGS for your organization. So if you have any questions about that, please let me know. Please email me. I'm going to put my email again in the chat, just in case anybody needs it. And just a reminder, hopefully you all downloaded the PDF from Steve. If you do have any other questions or comments or ideas, you're welcome to reach out to me at any time. I would love to hear from you. You know, we are a small staff, but we say we're small but mighty. So, you know, we do ask for your patience. Sometimes things are a little slower than I know people would like, but we are trying to do our best to make sure you all have what you need. So, you know, please reach out if you need anything. And my email is there in the chat. So I know we're about 5 minutes over and we do want to be respectful of your time, but thank you so much. Again, I'm just so grateful for your time and for all your input tonight. And we do welcome your comments if you want to reach out via email. So thank you so much, everybody. We hope you have a great night and a great end to your week. Steve, thank you. And thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Kate and Karen.
Thanks, everybody.